MMOs, aka games for nerds and lamers and losers. MMOs, aka massively multiplayer online games. Playgrounds of creativity and adventure where you can truly be whoever you want, so long as that whoever fits within the meta of the game at the time. In more real terms though, an MMO could be considered as a game which consists of 4 basic pillars. Number 1, persistent. Regardless of whether or not we engage with it, there must be a persistent world that exists and changes state constantly. We can log out, and our particular existence within that space is paused for a time being, but the wheel keeps on turning, baby. Proud people keep on rolling, and when we log back in again, our micro-existence within the larger tapestry is resumed. We are once more part of that evolving landscape, and that creates a sense of ownership and validation within the world. Number 2, progression. But, my pedigree friends, merely being part of this world is not enough. No. We must feel ourselves progress and grow alongside the world. There are various forms of progression. Some may be looking to become master crafters, collectors of cosmetics, or high-ranking PvPers. But every player must have the opportunity to develop and better themselves throughout the persistent world. Without the sense of accomplishment that comes from progression, there's no real motivation to play the game. But as soon as that content well dries up and the numbers stop going up, the game is donezo. Third pillar, community. There are 2 M's in MMOs, sweetheart, which means only one thing. The M's of massive multiplayer are a bit of a contentious topic. It's not controversial to state that Final Fantasy XIV has been the defining MMO of the last 5 years. However, there's a ginormous part of the game which isn't really multiplayer at all, and has often been described as a single player game that you can sometimes play with your friends every now and then if you feel like it, or if you have any mates, which you specifically, the viewer, do not. You can play through hours and hours and hours of Shadowbringers without interacting with a single soul. Regardless, an MMO must have the option to engage with a community of individuals, and there must be a group of people operating throughout the world and engaging with content outside of your existence. You don't have to be part of that active community, but it's got to be there, and you've got to have the opportunity to be a part of it should you choose. And finally, the 4th pillar, identity. As the RPG element of an MMORPG dictates, there must be some element of individuality and expression. You have to be able to be the main character of your own existence within the persistent world at large. This can come in the form of cosmetics, character creation, maybe some form of housing customization, whatever. But without some form of personalization of your own existence, it's difficult to contextualize your progress in the wider world. Now, the overriding issues with MMORPGs is that they are fucking bad as hell games. Oh my god. MMORPGs get away with countless murders. If 90% of MMOs transitioned into single player games, they would get fucking rinsed. Most of these games have god-awful writing, pacing, character performances, character writing, dialogue writing, overall narrative, plot, and fundamental gameplay flaws. A huge portion of MMOs are just mindless button mashing grindfests that position all of the content towards the end of the game when you hit max level. I know this is what a lot of people look for in an MMO, but I don't think that gives it carte blanche to just be a shite product. So many times I've played MMOs that the internet have heralded as harbingers of the golden age of MMOs, only for them to turn around and go, oh, no, man, you gotta wait until the end game content. That's when it gets really good. Are you kidding me? I can't turn around to you and say, hey, watch this 10 seasons show, but it only gets good in season 9. You're not going to watch the damn show. You have a life to. So, why is this the case? Is it because MMORPG players are in fact mindless zombie drones who willingly emancipate hundreds of hours of their lives away just to hit the exact same rotation of buttons at a raid boss to unlock a different pattern of pixels? Yes. But there are rare exceptional MMOs that are actually fun. Throughout the entire gaming experience, I loved leveling in Guild Wars 2 Vanilla when it first came out because there was so much variety. The combat was dynamic, fluid and fast. The areas were varied, lush and interesting to explore. There was a map exploration system which actually incentivizes you to go out and uncover every single part of the area. The only reason I ever explored a single boring ass Final Fantasy XIV area was to get an ether current. These places are fucking yawn, and don't come at me with original game. Guild Wars 2 came out way before any of this shit, and it is considerably better. But in our modern landscape, how has the MMO sphere changed? Are there exceptional modern MMOs that actually make an effort to create an engaging experience throughout the entire leveling process, and not just the end game content? I don't know, let's take a look at... Throne and Liberty is an upcoming MMORPG developed by NCSoft and published for the Western audiences by Amazon Game Studios. It has an emphasis on large-scale PvP. For those of you in the MMO community, you may hear NCSoft, Amazon Game Studios, large-scale PvP, and consider it to be the three-headed serpent that it is. But let's not complain about the minnows until we've seen the pike. I've played the opening section of this game. Not a lot at all. Like, I won't tell you that I'm an experienced veteran who's gone through all of the content, but I think that with the prevalence of emphasis on endgame content and the prevalence of content focusing on that endgame content, why don't we take a look at what the first 8 to 10 hours looks like instead? So, settle back, relax, and let's have a look. We open with some vague nonsense exposition that no one will ever remember or care about because it's an MMO. Come on, let's not kid ourselves here. Then, some kids get fucking blasted. Play. And an old man dies. God damn. And we get to the character creation. Now, kids, let's remember about pillar 4 here, identity. Character creation is a major part of being able to determine one's own identity within a sprawling world full of other players. We must be identifiable and individual in order to situate ourselves in the world at large. And the character creation here is pretty damn in depth. If you're somebody who really cares about meticulously sculpting someone who back of the head you're going to be staring at for hours on end, then you're in luck. After you finish creating your avatar, they'll chuck you straight in. Tutorial time, baby. Time to learn how to fight. Is this your bog standard button mashing, stand in stasis, zero skill kind of MMO? Not quite. Reminiscent of another NCSoft title, Girls 2, which I may have mentioned in the past, you'll have your primary and your secondary weapon slots, which will dictate your skills and abilities outside of your basic attack, but also a block and parry ability, which enables you to, well, block and parry, which means you do sort of have to engage some small part of your frontal cortex. If you come up against some blokes that you can't just whack with your sword, then no worries. Switch your other weapon and shoot them instead. There are 7 different types of weapons you can choose from. All can be chosen together to make different kinds of combos. I went for a dagger and bow build just because I want to spam the ever living shit out of dexterity. Anyway, you turn into a cat and then you fight a woman and then you awaken from a dream state and Benny's having a go at you for being a fucking dick. You're stuck in a room and he asks you to go and help Lottie, who's ran off somewhere, and there definitely isn't a giant fuck off whale flying through the sky. Fuck. Holy shit. What I can say for Throne and Liberty is goodness gracious me. This game is absolutely stunning. But immediately after this exposition of visual beauty, I am immediately pulled into the murky depths of dialogue, writing, hell.
Going back to get it. Thanks. I should get going. It's true, I was about to move the delivery. Did Benny tell you? Honestly, I told him not to worry.
The writing of dialogue and characters in this game has been done exclusively by 4-year-olds. Every single individual is empty. There is no personality, no distinctivity, no soul, nothing to separate any of these NPCs from each other. Each delivery is straight out of a children's cartoon. It all follows the same cadence and everything, and I mean everything is told.
The weapon chest.
You're going to give supplies to the guards? Just in case, bring your own weapons. There's a training dummy over there, so you can practice with your new weapons. After all, it's your weapons that'll save your life in battle.
Oh, shut the fuck. It's the complete opposite of show, don't tell. And it is infuriating. It's like I've been myself turned into a toddler, and the adults are trying to teach me how to exist via an MMO. Now, before anybody comes at me saying, oh, this is a Korean game, of course the English translation is going to be great. Shut the fuck up. Final Fantasy XIV has a vast host of individual personalities and characters that shine throughout the story, all of them memorable and unique. And the dialogue is written perfectly for Western audiences, down to specific jokes from regional dialects.
Another self-important little brat. Just what we need.
Reminds me of my childhood.
Anyway, back to the tutorial. We carried on the way and we touch a tree, and then we're immediately faced with the 8th deadly sin. This aquaphobic piece of shit. One of the most annoying parts of the opening section is that you have this thing following you around, whining in your ear every 4 seconds. Alright, then you meet Robert Yoga over here, and you turn you into a fucking hawk, and you zoom away, and there's a massive lumberjack here to knock on your clocks, but instead you knock him on his clocks. Yeah, get him. Then Jamboree Sam casts you up to the mainland to begin your real adventure. that's the tutorial, the opening segment of this game. You have the overarching story to follow, but there are also smaller individual objectives to complete in the environment. Pillar number 1, baby, persistence. We have our individual areas in this game, and in each individual area there are a set of objectives to follow that are dynamic and evolve with the world around you. This mechanic is a great way of fulfilling our need to engage with and influence the persistent world around us by tying our progression via XP, our loot, items gained, to the events that are happening in the area itself. You incentivize the player to interact with the environment in meaningful ways. This is good exploration. AAA Studios, please learn from this. Make your free roam game environments worth free fucking roaming. So, in each area, you can complete small little tasks and the like amongst the area, which are influenced not only by weather patterns, but also by dynamic timed events. In one, there's a wolf hunting event that happens every 2 hours. Now, these can be a bit annoying. If you turn up to the area just after the event has happened, you have to wait for it to restart before you can complete the zone, which is super fucky and annoying, and it's bad. You don't want to create barriers to completion in your game, which is all about progression and numbers go up. If you do want to run timed events, then great. It encourages players to revisit sites that they've been to in the past, which means you're consistent revisiting old zones and not just simply leaving them in the dust to never see them again. However, having to wait 2 hours to complete a zone before moving on sucks, so reduce the timed events to reactivate every 30 minutes. That way the players can continue with some of the other tasks in the area whilst they wait without feeling hamstrung. What is nice about the area-based progression is that they tie the world in with the main story. More often than not, your environment can just sort of feel like a backdrop to your story, just some sort of blank canvas you chuck in the background. In Throne and Liberty, you are blocked from completing certain parts of the zone exploration until you have completed a certain part of the main quest, which makes the environment feel more like a character that is slowly being explored rather than just somewhere you happen to be at the time. Oh, before I forget, somebody needs to get Benjamin Wolfish a lifetime supply of pats on the back, because the score on this game is fucking stupid. They hit you with the... And then they come in and they hit you with the...
Very pretty. I like the rain effects too. Whee.
And just when you think you're done and dusted, they bring you straight back in.
Let's have them in.
Speaking of drab backgrounds, you will find absolutely nothing of the sort in this game. It is an absolutely breathtaking masterclass of visual design, and it blows anything I've seen amongst its peers out of the water. Just look at this.
It's a very pretty game. For me, anyway. Not sure what it's like for you.
I've seen worse looking games.
It's a rave review.
The vistas here are absolutely stunning, and they really immerse you into the fantasy of the world around you. There's nothing like a section of flat pixels or square grapes to completely and utterly bring you back to reality, but the sheer majesty of some of the visuals in this game really draw you in and encourage you to explore. Speaking of exploration, goddamn MMOs of the modern world, please pay attention to what Throne and Libby are doing with their movement and exploration, because it makes traversing these gorgeous zones all the better. You start the game with the ability to morph into 3 different forms of creature. A land-based morph to speed around on, a sky-based morph to glide down from all the tall places you can get up to with your grappling hook, and a water-based morph that enables you to traverse vast swathes of water with ease. You know the problem I had with the FF landscapes? They're all fucking flat. All of them. A bar like 2, maybe 3. There is such a small amount of vertical travel, which makes exploration really, really, really boring. By enabling the player to be able to traverse up and down the vertical axis with a grappling hook and then a flying morph, you enable developers to have more freedom in designing environments, which in turn makes them more exciting to explore. When you have a persistent world that's whirling away whilst you're carrying on, you want your players to want to explore them. Otherwise, you are missing a fundamental component of your game. And the best thing of all of these morphs are available instantly. You don't have to fucking grind for 40 hours to hit max level and then grind one dungeon for 2 years to unlock them. They're already there, baby. Day one. You're zipping around as a fucking order. I've been waxing lyrical on the positives, but we have to talk about the negatives, which is the story. Now, MMOs are not famous for their writing, but I feel like Final Fantasy XIV has created a new benchmark in which developers should at least try to achieve a similar quality. The story itself isn't even that bad. Well, I say that. I played like 10 hours and I couldn't tell you a single thing that happens. But anyway, it's the characters within that story that are really... I mentioned earlier that the character writing is god-awful, but beyond just being slightly annoying is that it makes me not give a single shit about the story whatsoever, because the people who contextualize that wider story are uninteresting at best and annoying at worst. Now, again, some of you may be saying, oh, Chef, it's an MMO. No one gives a fuck about the story. It's all about the endgame raiding, baby. Like, yeah, fine, but this is a video exploring the early game content of an MMO. So let me talk about the early game content. Let's look at Final Fantasy XIV for a second. There are an abundance of memorable characters with individual personalities and stories, coupled with genuinely standout performances from the VA cast. And you have a group of individuals that you actually give a shit about because they are interesting enough for you to want to pay attention to. Primarily due to the excellent dialogue writing and character performances that make you want to listen to them. I played around 10 hours of Throne and Libya and I cannot name you a single character. And no, I didn't skip all of the dialogue and cutscenes. I watched every single scene and I read every little dialogue box that popped up. None of these fuckers have enough individual charisma, nuance, or personality to distinguish themselves from each other. The performances aren't even that bad, but come on, man. Can you at least try and attempt to add even the slightest bit of character into your characters?
That's strange. I wasn't told about any serious injuries.
God, these NPCs are the worst, man. The dialogue
Hey,
is so
are you awake?
stale.
Do you recognize me? Oh, nice. You wait here. I'll call the healer now.
It's like dialogue for 7-year-olds. Who wrote this shit? This dude is kind of getting annoying. The writing. It's the writing that's truly god-awful. These are voice lines written by 4-year-olds. They tell you everything, and they show you nothing.
The truth is, my sister is also suffering.
Why
from
aren't
the
you
same
looking at me?
symptoms
Why are
as
you just
yours,
vaguely looking
and
at
I've
the
been
desk?
searching for a cure. The mana calming potion I'm creating should be able to help. Let's see.
I don't know, Jake. I'm sorry.
Then I'll tell you. What
Nothing is left to the imagination or mystery. It is all explained to you in the most cut and dry way possible.
Head to the Golden Apothecary in the Golden Rye pastures. You'll be able to find some rancid powder. Just get me some rancid powder.
One exception is that kid who dies fighting the big wolf. He's pretty cool. Did you not clock that, Charlie, considering Henry isn't dead?
No,
This is the kid who died attacking the big wolf.
yeah, no, I understand, but I thought it was a twist.
What do you mean it's a twist? You just suddenly come back to life?
Yeah.
Not necessarily because he's written well, but he's actually a character who does something in the story, as opposed to the rest of the cast who just have things happen to them, and then you react. The whole thing about characters may be minor, but its knock-on effect is that I don't give a single shite about the story or how it relates to this incredibly beautiful dynamic world that you've created. It also completely binds progression to number go up and means your identity within the tapestry of the world is purely tied to the world and not the primary adventure that happens within that world. If you tell me I need to go on a grand adventure through this entire world and then the grand adventure is really boring and shit and I don't care about it, then what am I meant to do, you know? Shut up. Why are you making those noises? Oh, what if, you know, watch Lord of the Rings and Frodo just has to take a basket of flowers to Sauron, you know? Who cares? What Final Fantasy XIV has taught us is that a good story can make up for so much in an MMO. The world in FF14 is garbage. The levels are boring, the visuals are poor, the traversal is dead slow. But because the story and the characters are so interesting, you can overlook all of that. In Throne and Liberty, you have the direct opposite problem. The core gameplay is genuinely some of the best I've seen in MMO. The combat is fun and fluid, it is creative, it is fast-paced, the world is immersive and beautiful, and the way you can travel that world is quick and fun and interesting. The music is incredible, and the ability to play with your friends is endless. But I don't give a shit about anyone in the narrative, which means I don't give a shit about the entire narrative. Imagine watching a film and being told, oh yeah man, the plot, characters, performances, writing, all garbage. But look how well it's shot. Like, come on, man. I'm still not gonna watch that movie regardless of how well it's shot. An MMO is a time sink. It requires multiple hundreds of hours from its players to explore in its entirety. And you as a writer have an incredible opportunity to create a sprawling narrative. And you have the opportunity that so many others don't, to create complex individuals that bring the world around you to life. But no! You write this shit instead. The good news is that if you genuinely do not give a flying fuck about the story at all whatsoever, then lads, sign up right now. Roll up. You've got a great experience coming your way. I, however, cannot get behind a game without being at least somewhat invested in the plot of what's actually going on. Don't tell me I'm the chosen one born to save the world from a great evil, then give me a cast of characters that I'd happily sacrifice to evil Purple Lady just to get them to stop fucking talking.
To conclude, is this a good MMO? Yes and no. It's a great MMO if you genuinely decouple yourself from the story, the narrative, the plot, the characters, and the performances. If you gain satisfaction primarily from the grind and the gameplay of an MMO like this, then you'll have a great time. The problem lies in the game asking you to care and not providing you the necessary stakes to have any form of empathy regarding the events that take place. There's no incentive to try and engage with the stories that give life to the world around you, which is a real shame because the world is so gorgeous and traversing that world is fun and easy and fast. Having said that, this isn't a requirement for everybody. It's a great MMO, but also a really bad MMO, depending on what kind of MMO player you are. Hey, you made it to the end of the video, what a legend. You will be rewarded in the next live. But for now, please do take a look at some of my other stupid videos, and give this one a massive like button. Thanks. Also, subscribe, you bastard.